Hello, hello. Um, when I started today to to think about what this post, what keeps coming up. I have to what keeps coming up. I have to wonder if it's too much, if I'm just going too deep or yeah. But here we go. Um, you know what happens for me in my life is I get to be around with a lot of people, and I like that. I enjoy people, and I this week I'm out in Squamish visiting with my daughter and her husband and their kids, and you can see the chief behind me. It's this mountain right in town. It's amazing. Actually, we climbed it yesterday. Oh my gosh. It was an amazing hike for these old legs. Going up was really hard, because it's like 1,400 feet of elevation, but coming down was even harder. It was crazy. But what I wanted to talk about, or what I'm going to talk about, is this idea that we can find happiness outside of us, and or from what we do, or what we own, or or even from knowledge or information, or from understanding. And often when I'm talking, I'm speaking to the addict or the alcoholic, and in my opinion, even if we're not substance addicted, we're all addicted to ideas, to beliefs, to identities. Those are tough addictions, the addictions to identities. And I gave up substance use a long time ago, but I didn't even discover that I was addicted to my idea of who I am, my identity. I didn't discover that for quite some time. I was like, oh my gosh, I was addicted to being, whatever I was, in that time. A big one for me was my business. I was, and I had friends. I remember Kenny used to say, "You're not your business," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I know," but I didn't know. I was so enmeshed that I didn't realize how addicted I was to the whole image and idea of it, and because I was still looking outside of me for fulfillment. So probably one of the greatest gifts I've gotten in this life in the last several years was to lose that business. It was like, oh my gosh, I had to go through this whole process of letting it go, and letting the identity go, and it was hard. It really was, and I hung on to it so tightly, very tightly, because even our society tells us, that we don't quit, and there's a difference between quitting and surrendering. There really is, and I realized that I was hanging on because it was, it was an image, and it was a identity. So that was my own lesson in that, and so for what I see often is that we're kind of pretending, many of us, and just, if this doesn't fit for you, that's okay, and maybe just see if some of it fits. It may not fit, and that's all right. I don't, the way that I kind of deliver this isn't going to fit for everybody, but many of us have an identity, and even as children, as kids, sometimes we know that there's something missing, there's something wrong in a way. Ultimately, I believe all of us at some level recognize that we're what we call spiritual beings, that there's something about us that we see even as children, that and this connection to the one, this connection to life, and I think that somehow, as kids, when we're coming into the world and we're growing into the world, much of what we're being taught or talked to about is outside of us. We have to focus on accomplishments, right? We have to focus on getting things done. We have to, we see people around us, working really hard to get stuff, but there's something missing, and so we grow up knowing there's something missing. I remember being a kid, and I'm talking, in the single digits, with 6 and 7 years old, and thinking something's not right here, and I didn't understand what it was, but I didn't feel contented. I didn't feel like I fit in, but there was something not being explained to me, and I recognize now that that likely the people who were educating me didn't know. They didn't have any awareness of that there was something missing. My mom and dad were trying to give me the best life, but they didn't help me to look inside, and they were their beliefs around spirituality were really tied up in religion. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the connection with universal intelligence, with the oneness, and I remember when I first found that peace, that wow, it was with drugs and alcohol, where I first found it. It was like, wow, where have they been hiding this shit? And that was at probably 13 or so, it was like, yes, and I remember doing psychedelics in my teens and thinking, this is it, and because I knew there was something beyond the physical realm. I knew there was something beyond, that there was, something going on that I wasn't privy to, but I didn't realize that nobody else really knew. The spiritual teachers of the day, you had to go to India to find somebody that could explain this oneness. It wasn't, I didn't get it in the religions of the day. I mean, my mom tried. She took us to the Christian religion a lot. But that was a belief, not an experience. And that was a belief. And now I recognize that there's something beyond the belief, and that the belief actually didn't work for me. What happened when I found in the 12 steps is that, it talks about a relationship. It talks about a God consciousness, a oneness that we can have when we, intuitively know, or we understand serenity, we understand peace. And so it's a much deeper situation, I'm at my daughter's, and the kids are all over the place. It's kind of great. I enjoy my time with my grandkids. So, yeah, that oneness. And how do we get there? This is the thing. This is the question that, everybody asks. And in the 12 steps, one of the things that happens is we surrender in the beginning. We surrender, we say yes, we recognize that we were, had become addicted to a substance, a drug of choice. And in my case, there were quite a few. And that, we knew that was killing us. It wasn't the real deal. And it's funny, I think of Ram Dass. Some of you know of Ram Dass, and he was a doctor of psychology, I think, at Harvard, and he and Timothy Leary and the boys back in the 60s were doing acid, and Ram Dass loved acid. It was like, holy shit, this is great stuff. Because he was having these blissful experiences, and he finally went to India to find a teacher so that he could have this experience. He could open the door to have it on an ongoing basis. And so when I sobered up, I didn't realize that what I was doing was looking for that oneness, looking for that experience. I didn't realize that. I thought that there was something wrong with me. And so I had to stop using and drinking because that was, there was something wrong with me. But what was really happening is that deep down inside, I was trying to find my way home, if you would, find my way into this relationship with this power greater than myself, and not being in that relationship was painful, And so sometimes drugs and alcohol just numbed the pain, and sometimes it took me into states of bliss, but they didn't last, and it eventually it kind of came around and bit me hard, so anyway, where was I? So how do we find that? This is the deal. And in the 12 steps, we surrender, we say yes. In the moment, we say, yes, I have to change. Something is not working. This is not working. We recognize that we're powerless over the drug and the alcohol. And then we recognize that our life is unmanageable. And what does that mean? It means that I had to change my thinking. But I couldn't seem to change my thinking on my own. I had tried. I was always, cleaning the slate, or trying to change my thinking, or I was always, pulling my socks up, and I couldn't do that. I finally realized that I was powerless. I couldn't change my thinking on my own. I just couldn't. And what's amazing is that in the 12 steps, it doesn't even ask us to change our thinking. Although it gives us a design for living, it says in 4 and 5, we discover who we were, in the grosser handicaps, if you will, the nature of our problem. And then in 6 and 7, in the 7th step, we actually ask to have it taken away. So we surrender our thinking. We don't try to change it. We're not working on becoming a better person. We're working on actually letting that go, so we can live in the moment, so we can live in relationship with this power. So, for me, to sit and just let it all go, the identities, the positionalities, the belief systems, the possessions, even to be holding them tightly, it doesn't work. The fears, the resentments, we let those things go. We just, in this moment, we drop into this space, into this emptiness, into this oneness of now. And as we practice that, it grows in us. As we practice that, that light shines in us. So that's the deal. And it seems a little more complicated than that, but it really isn't. We come to know that that's our natural state. And in the beginning, we sense that, or we suspect that there's something more, but this is what happens, is we actually come into this as our natural state, and then life becomes so full, such an adventure, because there's nothing missing. There's no complaint, there's no anger, there's no judgment, there's no position. We're free. And it doesn't mean that we can't get things done. We do. We're actually more productive, or can be. So that's the deal. And if there's such a thing as happiness, it's in this moment, right now. And many of us don't even realize that we're not in the moment, that we're living in the illusion of our identities. We're living in the illusion of our conditioned belief systems about ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. It's all bullshit. So just let it all go. And we practice that letting go and move into our natural state, which is love. So, and love is the deal, and people have been telling us, ever since the Beatles told us, all you need is love. It's always been there. So how do we access that love? Be present, be in this moment, and recognize that how we've been living with our judgments and our fears, our complaints, didn't work. It was difficult, and our fear blocks up inside of us, and we eat. I don't know if you've ever done that, but comfort eating, oh my gosh, and then it gets worse, it compounds. So just be here now. Let's talk about that as much as possible. How do I get here now? Breathe, come into this moment, recognize that all of our perceived problems are not real in this moment. We're totally free now. So that's the deal. Now, I've been reading from this book the last little while, and I'm just going to I'll give you a where was I the last time when I read it? I think I was on 61. I think we're on 62. Yes. So it's very short reading. I'm going to read from the Tao Te Ching by Stephen Mitchell. It's amazing. 62. And these are things that, like this book, lao-tzu wrote this several thousands of years ago. And it's been translated by lots of different people. It's amazing. It really is. If we contemplate these pages, again, it brings us into the moment. It's not a teaching as such. Teachings, dogmatic teachings are like strengthening the persona. We want to let go of the persona and be free. So anyway, here we go. 62. The Tao is the center of the universe. A good man's treasure, a bad man's refuge. Yes. Honors can be bought with fine words. Respect can be won with good deeds. But the Tao is beyond all value. And no one can achieve it. You can't achieve it because it is. We are it. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him with your wealth or your expertise. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao. Why did the ancient masters esteem the Tao? Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find. Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find. And when you make a mistake, you are forgiven. That is why everybody loves the Tao. Beautiful. So, it's my never-ending message. Be here now, in the Tao. Freedom, baby. And it's from great teachings like the 12 Steps, which is a great teaching. That teaching doesn't teach us dogma. It leads us into our core, into the center. It has depth. And so I really recommend it for all of us as we're finding our way out of the illusion. Okay, love you guys. Lots. Love it if you go to YouTube and subscribe. We're growing that channel. And, I'm just going to keep doing this. And I'm so grateful to be able to. Thanks. Love you lots.